Welcome everybody to today's webinar on how Roffey Park made executive learning collaborative and measurable. Thank you so much for attending. This is going to be a 1-hour webinar, and it's really great to see so many people joining us today. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. My name is Johanna. I'm a customer success manager at Howspace, and I'm joined by my colleague Antje.
Hey everyone.
All right, just a quick housekeeping note. Below this live stream here, you've got 2 chat questions. One is a private question space, and one is for a public question space. And in this public question, chat question, we'd encourage you to share some reflections. If there's something that you're hearing that you'd want to jot down as you kind of reflect for others, please do so. And of course, if you have any technical issues, put that in the private chat. We'll get to those. My job is to be manning and looking at those 2 chat questions, and I'm going to be pulling some audience questions as well during the session. So please do share with that, and I'll try to bring some audience questions to the discussion. So now let's get into our agenda for today. We're going to be guiding this conversation into 3 different categories. First, why did Roffey Park feel that they needed some sort of change? Number 2, what was their solution? Of course, using Howspace and other tools as well. And then finally, how was the impact measured and the lessons learned from that experience? So now, let's get into the topic, and I'm going to bring onto the stage our wonderful speaker, Leigh Morris. She is the head of instructional design at Roffey Park Institute. Welcome, Leigh.
Hi, Joanna. Hi, Antje. Thank you for having me. It's really good to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. So maybe just by way of introduction, can you explain a little bit about Roffey Park?
Sure. So Roffey Park is a consultancy that's based in the United Kingdom. We've been around for a good 75 years. And what we do is we help organizations with what matters. And some of the solutions that we offer to organizations are learning and development. So we work a lot in the leadership and management space, and we do a lot of organizational design and development work. And we are quite well known around the United Kingdom for our leadership programs. We work with organizations in the private and public sector, but then we also run our own training programs, our open programs that people can join from anywhere actually in the world now that we are 100% online. So we're in lots of different spaces. We also have our university side of things as well. So we run an MSc in organizational development. So we are using Howspace across quite a lot of different things now.
Wonderful. That sounds really great. And awesome to hear that you're fully virtual now. So it's a sign of the times for sure. Before we get into your case study specifically, I wanted to just quickly pause on thinking through what the audience here today, invited to the webinar, of course, through the discussion that happened in our pre-work or welcome page of Howspace. I wanted to take a quick step back and to see what was shared in that welcome page. The reason is because I think that one of the questions that we had in advance of the session was about, and let me scroll down a little bit here so we can all see, what's one learning experience you wish for your organization that they could create for participants? And I love to start with this conversation of wishes and desires, because I think that's ultimately what kind of fuels any change. So I'm going to use Howspace's tools, and so this helps me as well as somebody trying to understand a conversation just in the real-time moment. I'm going to click on our AI insights, and what that is trying to gather very quickly in real time what is the summary or the themes or the sentiment of the conversation. So for sake of simplicity, I'm going to use our theme cluster tool. And this is going to bring up the main topics of the conversation. And I'm going to, now that this is an admin tool, I'm going to actually just create a comment from here so that everyone on this page can also see it for themselves. But I'm going to just quickly stop sharing because I've taken those themes and I've created a very easy to visualize kind of summary of those topics. And Leigh, I want to ask you what you are seeing from these things. So let me just quickly show my screen. Just a moment here while I get this set up. Here we go. So I took those themes, and what I want to get your reflections on is, were any of the themes that were brought out from the conversation of wishes, does that resonate to you at all? Is that something that you wanted to also create for your own learning experiences? And for me, the two things that in particular I feel that knowing a little bit about your journey would resonate, probably for me as well as you potentially, would be the idea of not just necessarily going for like the traditional methods of slides and polls, but having a little bit more engaging learning experiences. And in particular, things like the practical application of learning. So creating spaces for collaborative problem solving, knowledge exchange. And I love, there was one comment on the page about sort of just real communication, having that dialogue with peers, with colleagues. I'm curious, do any of these wishes that our audience stated, did that resonate for you as well when you started your Howspace journey?
I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that every single one of those has been part of our wish list. So I could discuss every part of those. When it comes to internal for Roffey and then external for the client, I think I can probably separate them out. So internally for us, we really wanted to look at a way that we can create that variety of learning interactions, so we can make sure that when we're delivering online, we can keep it practical application and have collaboration going, which is so important for us, because really then when it comes through to the client, we're able to create that behavioral change, a sustained change, that the learning that you do isn't just in isolation. So you don't just come on a program, have an experience, and then go off and it's kind of like a lingering thought. We really wanted to create programs that last for a long time. They create a behavioral change in people. And then a big thing as well that we're seeing with our clients, a big wish list for clients, is that community and support. So when you're engaging in a learning program, that you have people to talk to about it when the program's not happening, when you're not in that live face-to-face session, that you have support from your peers, from other people in the program, that you have space for discussing it. Because, not to get a little too technical, but you have your motivation, and you need to make sure that not only are people given a space where what they're learning is, they have got their autonomy, they've got their mastery, but they also have that relatedness, and you need to create that community and that connection in order for that sustained behavioral change to come through the motivation. So every single one of these resonates with me.
Interesting. So we're very much aligned in terms of our audience and also what Leigh started with. So I appreciate the fact that you guys all contributed to that welcome question. So that really set the context very, very well. So Antia, I'm going to hand it over to you as bringing us through some of the questions to kind of get deeper into Leigh's case. Thanks.
Yes. Leigh, as you just confirmed, everything resonates with you, and it's interesting to see, right, that you kind of hope for the same wishes and things to be changed in your learning programs. And we were thinking of, maybe we can now kind of bring you back or all of us back to the start of your journey. Would you maybe kind of describe a little bit how was the beginning, and also the Roffey Park's executive learning programs before Howspace? So what were maybe also some key challenges you encountered, and then also, as you already kind of touched upon, the wishes you hoped for to change?
So I think that for that, I even have to go back to before I started at Roffey, and it would be COVID. So what's very interesting about Roffey Park is in the UK, February 2020, when everything went south. Prior to that, Roffey Park was 100% face-to-face delivery. So we would either have our clients come to our site, which is in Horsham in the United Kingdom, where we would run our programs, or we would, if they were located in different areas like Manchester or Newcastle, we'd either use their offices or have space with our connections there. So everything was 100% face-to-face. And COVID hit, and Roffey needed to pivot, because this is our bread and butter. It's how we make money, is through learning and development. So and I will say, for my colleagues that came before me, within 6 weeks, they had pivoted and they were able to run their programs for clients in our open programs in an online space. It was very basic. We were using Zoom to deliver the sessions, and then we would have our slide decks being presented and sent out to clients. Then we grew a little bit more as the months of COVID went on, and we implemented Moodle across our programs. We were still using Zoom or Teams to deliver the online sessions with our clients or our open programs, but then we would use Moodle as basically our learning management system for participants, which comes into some of our issues that we were finding. So when I started at Roffey at the end of 2021, we were wanting now to really be at the forefront of delivering online learning. So we were looking at what we were presenting to our clients and to our open programs, and we were like, how can we change it? And we had some challenges. The biggest thing for us is that we were finding that our online learning was quite passive. So we were really well known in the space, and we still are, for our incredibly experiential dialogic approach for our training that we do on site face-to-face. And we were wanting to bring that into the online space. But our solution with sharing a PowerPoint into Zoom and using breakout rooms just was creating a very, very passive learning experience for us. We were using our learning management system, Moodle, as basically just a dumping space. And what that was creating was this transactional gap. And that would be between the facilitator and the participants in the downtime, between the participants on the program, whether it was actually in the session or outside of the session, and then really a gap with the participants and the program itself. So if you needed to find something from your session, you had to remember where that email was. There was a link. Where did this get saved? Oh no, I need to find my link to join the program. Where have I got this? And everything was in so many different places that we were seeing that there was a lot of frustration happening in the online space, whether it was our facilitators were frustrated, our participants were just not motivated to sit in it for so long. And then we also realized we weren't measuring that impact. So in a face-to-face program, you have a lot of conversations with people. You can see that change happening with practical experiments. We weren't finding a way of seeing how our participants were creating a change moving forward. And our evaluation would be a happy sheet through SurveyMonkey at the end of a program, and it just wasn't integrated throughout. So you would really struggle to get like a whole holistic approach of the program. And that was when we met Howspace at a conference. And then we entered
I remember that one.
Yeah, that long journey to bring it on board. And we're now, I think it's just been over a year since we implemented Howspace, Anshin.
Yeah, that's more than a year now. Time flies.
Yeah, I think it was in January 2024 that we moved over. Oh,
Absolutely. You're right. Yeah, more than a year now. Is there, I mean, that's like from what you described, right? The entire journey and kind of facing all these challenges and coming also from more, let's say, separated tools, not everything in one place, right? This is also something you mentioned now, Moodle as your learning management system, but then you tried also to connect some other things, but it was not really like under the umbrella of one entire space. And then also the other challenges you are raising now. We were also wondering and also wanted to check a little bit with our audience now is from what they have heard now from you as key challenges in your situation, if there are maybe also, if that first of all resonates with them, but also if they have maybe similar challenges. And for that, we also have brought a bit of a interaction on our page again, which is a kind of a prioritization question. And maybe we can unveil that for all of us. just to see if from what you as participants of the webinar and what you just heard from Leigh and all the challenges from the Roffey Park side, is there something what resonates also with you? And for that, we would like to maybe share quickly our prioritization widget. If we can share the webinar page for a moment, just to quickly explain to you what we have unveiled there. And we are curious to hear what is the biggest challenge in learning in your organization. And if you're in the area of executive learning, then you can also relate that to executive learning. And you see now here some answering options, and what we would like you to do, maybe you can, each of you, prioritize from your own perspective, and you can bring the one which is the most challenging option for you to the top. So the most challenging one is always on the top. And to prioritize, you can do that by moving the arrows next to the answering options up and down, and then bring it into your own order, submit the answer. So we maybe pause for a moment just to let you everyone do that, and then we can see and look at the results with all of you. Wonderful.
This is such a great widget. It's one of my favorites to see the facilitators use.
Yeah. And I was about to say recently released, but it's also quite a few months ago. But it's a great way of also getting everyone's perspective around questions, and also having the option, maybe not just deciding for one, right? So you have really the possibility to prioritize in your own, or from your own perspective.
I also just appreciate the tactile experience of it as well, because you're actually physically doing something too, which is a really nice thing to bring into an online session when you can get very tired of just staring at things and clicking a button.
That's true. All right, then we wait a moment for getting some results in, and then unveiling also the results for us, just seeing, maybe we can share that already and see how it will change also the view. Gives us already a glimpse into the results, Leigh and myself, so it's good to see what also resonates with you from what you heard from Leigh, and also bringing that into your own context. And we can see the challenge, and I think this is a challenge which we all can resonate quite well, is this topic of engagement, right? And how to keep participants actively engaged beyond just watching slides, as you said, Leigh. I think this is one of the biggest topics, and we see here it really resonates with a lot of the audience of today's session. And measuring learning impact, we are coming to that topic. It will be one of the sections. So good to see that also on the almost top of the list as well.
Always everybody's favorite one, the big question, how do you measure that impact?
Exactly. So and then of course this whole topic of extending the learning beyond classical way of learning, and also making sure it's relevant for your daily ways of working, right? So really kind of that implementation and adaptation to your own ways of working. So learning, of course, is strongly connected to that. So for me, just looking now a little bit at the results, I don't know how you feel like, Leigh, but I have the feeling it's really kind of resonates perfectly with what you have said, and it's also good, a good way of even jumping into our next topic of today's session, where we really now want to come from the challenges and from the wishes, so the future perspective, really looking more deeper into the solution. And I know you have brought a lot of inspiring examples for us, and also will share, I know it, really kind of nice views behind the curtain, I would say, also showing us some real program workspaces and leading us through how you have actually approached all these challenges at Roffey Park. So what about taking us now a little bit into the more starting point, and then showing us how you kind of developed your learning programs with Howspace?
So our big starting point was that we wanted to visualize these programs as a learning journey. We didn't want to have that disjointed idea of you come in at the start of a session and you get a slide deck, you're involved in a session and then you leave, and then there's that period in between. We wanted to create a space where when you come on a program, you have almost like it's a Howspace workspace, you have a home, everything is completely kept there, and we integrate Howspace across everything. So we build our program, which I'll show you now, and that's a space that a participant comes to for everything. Just get this up. It's always hard to find on this, as I was saying. Where is my workspace? I'm sorry, I'm having a moment trying to find it on the screen share, so just bear with me.
That's all fine. And the reason might be you have too many things already opened.
I don't. I close everything as much as I can, but if you understand how tiny the little thing is, there we go. I found it now. Okay, so we have this is what a program would look like for us. It's not, sorry, let me do this again. It's not sharing the correct one. Very, very small. There we go. Now I can finally see the correct one. All right. So for us, this is a participant joins our program. So this is one of our open programs, our leadership development course. They receive a welcome email, which sends them to our program. So they have everything housed in here. So this is how we've incorporated it. They come in, they have access, we give them a little introduction on how to use. So we've actually named our Howspace, is no longer called Howspace. We've called it My Roffey Park. So you have your learning platform, come to My Roffey Park. You have links to everything in here. So we've created a full journey. They have the overview of their course, any pre-work. If you are coming to a face-to-face session, you come straight to here. You can find out all the information about actually attending our site, instructions, how to book. When you have your facilitated sessions, you join directly from within the platform. So we use the live session here, just like you're using right now for this webinar. So you come and join in there. All of our sessions are built into it. We give space for journaling where people can come back and record all their thoughts. We have space for participants to engage with one another and with the facilitator. We've embedded our extra tools, so any participant who joins our programs gets access to Mind Tools, which we've embedded directly into the platform. We really wanted to create this space where a participant doesn't need to leave the browser. It's it's their space for everything. We have our evaluation all built into here, all the different sections of the evaluation that we'll talk about a little later. And then we also our next steps with how to get your certificates, and then recommendations of future programs that you should attend. And then we thought, we want it to be not just a space that makes sense for the participant, but also how can our facilitators make sure everything is in here. So we create our facilitation space for them, where we have notes for the facilitator to run the session, any evaluation for them, any extra things they might need. So sometimes we give them space for slide decks. They might need extra activities. We build all of that in here. And we also, when we utilize which is not in this one, but I'll show you in another one, we also leave all of our facilitator notes directly to delivery directly into it. So our idea for this is you don't need anything else. Our program management team handles all communication with participants straight from Howspace. So they come in here in the back end, they're able to program all the emails. So we have our draft default emails we send out. So we set everything up beforehand. Our program managers come in, they know the dates they would need to send it out. We run everything from straight in here. We create user lists for our participants, anything like that we need. So basically, everything is kept for a program within the one space that your participants are using, your facilitators are using, our program managers are using, and we also give our clients back-end access to, so they're able to come in and see what's happening with the evaluation, any comments, what discussions are coming out of it. We keep everything all together.
Wow. So you can say it's a full integration in that sense into one platform
100%.
from all perspectives. Exactly. That's
100%.
wonderful.
So basically, unless a client asks us and says that they would prefer to run on Teams or Zoom, we run everything through Howspace. What it has also taught us a lot is how to engage with technical teams within clients, because we've had to learn about whitelisting, making sure that it can run 100%. And as you'll know and share, we have managed to pull it into a very large civil service UK organization and have it work perfectly. So it is doable even within organizations that have top security that you wouldn't think so, but it
Great
can work,
achievement.
run through
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
But I'm guessing what you're really interested in is how we keep everybody motivated through that.
Exactly. I was about to ask, because also coming back, since it was on the top of the prioritization widget, let's maybe dig a little bit deeper into the topic of engagement, because I know you also have great things to share there. Maybe you can also walk us through a little in that area.
Just waiting for that to pop up on the screen. There we go. So this is a live session. It's just finished from our Management Essentials Open program. So as you see, same integration as you saw before. We have everything through here, and we run our facilitated sessions through it. And what we do is we use the facilitated session path setting on here. So what happens is a participant joins. So they come here to join the session. We've got all the notes on how this will work, how best to present it on the screen. They join, they navigate to the session that they're in, and then the facilitator's in charge of, it's almost like running a slide deck, but if you imagine that it's a really, really interactive slide deck, that also saves everything that a participant does, which is like my favorite part to it. So any conversations that happen, any notes that put in, a participant can come back 2 months later and still see it. So our facilitators then would start moving through. So if we see, if we go here, so they might ask, doing this, we can get some comments that pop in here, and that's going to stay live. But really what we like to use it for, so in here, the participant's going to type directly, they're going to type directly in there, and they're going to hit post, and it's going to pop in, and it's saved in here, which is really, really nice to get like that thoughts coming out, just like you'd have in the chat, maybe in Zoom or Teams, but this time we can actually save it, so you can really ask questions or people might come back to you for later. But we also like to use polls to keep that interactivity going. So, you know, your basic one here, but where we use it is more for discussion points. So this is a really nice one because it kicks off a really intense discussion. So it's a simple poll. A good manager knows at all times what's going on in their team. So yes, you might think, okay, fine, it's just something simple that I'm going to pop in and say whether I agree or disagree. But what our facilitator then does is uses these results to actually engage in quite an intense debate with the participants. So you'll see here 4 people disagreed with the statement, 1 strongly agreed, and 2 sort of agreed. And now they're going to go on and have a conversation around why this is what happened. So they're actually like cementing their thoughts and using the practicality. We also like to pull in activities where we can actually save content. So in here, we have an activity here. You can download it, keep the documents to yourself. But then we like to get a little more actually interactive. So this one is great. We asked our manager learning how to prioritize their week. So they're going to brainstorm. And what's really great here is you can change your settings on all the different widgets. So we like to keep this one. It's just theirs. What I do, send lots of emails. So I post that in there. Nobody else can see my comment that I've put in. and we have them brainstorm all these ideas, then they physically move them. So now we have a conversation around, you wouldn't have seen the comments beforehand, they're in here now. So let's have a conversation around things that are important. Are they urgent, but they're not urgent, not important, sitting on it. And then the participants go and they actually start moving their comments through. So if I say that this is not important but urgent, so I pop that down there. And then for everybody, that's going to pop up on here. So they're doing a practical activity, because one of our problems was if you came to a face-to-face session, you had a lot of interactive, exciting activities that you do, lots of writing on Post-it notes, up, reorganizing things, physical activities. How can we make that happen in an online space? So we like to use this. So now we can have conversations in groups. So we can now use the breakout function, send people into their breakout groups. They can still see these and start having a conversation around how do they delegate these? What do they do? So we use a lot of group conversations. We use the Canvas tool quite a bit as well to get people to draw things, group work, to pull in Post-it notes. We try and make it as interactive as possible so you don't feel like you're just looking at a slide and listening to what the facilitator says. So we try because one of my most favorite quotes or things that I really, I'm going to present this. There we go. Thank you. And this always resonates with me from being a teacher, is that learning is creating, not just consuming. So we needed to find a tool and have something that allowed our participants to actually create things in the sessions and online, where they're not just absorbing what you give them, they're the ones that are actually doing and creating something, bringing a conversation. So yeah.
And for that, you need to create that platform, or let's say opportunities to really get involved, right? Otherwise, they cannot get into this kind of phase of creation. So not only being actively, or this kind of actively being involved in the learning process and the transfer. So great examples you are showing here.
And what I also really, really love is how great Howspace is for inclusivity when we're designing. So previously, we would have just had space for facilitator to share things and for people to talk or write in the chat. And when we use Howspace, we're able to be as inclusive as possible. So people can type their responses in, they can switch the sound off, they can record it. So instead of just, if maybe we work a lot with organizations where people might be coming with specific needs in their learning. So maybe they're visually impaired. So instead of having to type it out, they can record in. But now if we're having somebody who might have hearing problems, they're able to transcribe what others have said. Or if there's a video that's put in there, they can pull that transcription up. We can have different things. People can add images to express how they're feeling. They don't just have to add words. They can, talk to things. They can record their own videos. We have so many different options for how people can share their thoughts and how they can engage with each other whilst they're outside of the program in bringing all of this together.
Yeah, great to hear. And I think especially inclusivity is such an important topic, right? To really have that in mind and making sure that everyone can contribute and participate in their preferred way, no matter kind of what their kind of framework is. So thank you for highlighting that, because I think this is becoming more and more important also nowadays. If you look into learning programs and making sure that everyone can really participate in their preferred way.
Well, and also if we take it one step further, so going online, really, like COVID, is as terrible as it was, humans change and innovate out of necessity. And one of the doors that it's opened up for us is we're now working across the world. So we have a client who has offices all over. So now we're running sessions in Argentina and Mexico and in Germany and in the United Kingdom and in Spain. And, we're an English company. So how do we deal with that? So we've made a lot of use of the Howspace translation tools. And I'm going to show you something, but let's see if I can make this work, because it is a little. I think it might have to be a window. Yes, here we go. So if I do it like this. So we've made a little video just to show how the translation tool works, just because it's hard to show it to you in live time. So Howspace allows our participants, so let's say we're working now with a company in, I can't remember which language we choose, in Holland. So we are able to live translate everything that's in here. But where it becomes really, really cool is the participant is then able to put their own thoughts and comments in their home language. And it gets translated for everybody else. So what's showing here in the video is if somebody else puts it into English, the Dutch person is able to see it in Dutch. And if the Dutch person then writes in Dutch, our Spanish person is going to see that in Spanish. And it's been an absolute game changer for us when it comes to running.
Imagine.
Yeah, across different scopes.
So there's no barriers, no language barriers actually anymore, right?
No
So
language
everyone
barriers.
can really,
I mean, we can have mixed sessions. So we've run a program with a telecommunications company in Europe where we've had participants who speak German, Italian, and French in a session, and they've been able to put their own thoughts. So the sessions run in English because it's the common language, but they're able to type their thoughts out or add their comments or things in their home language, and everybody's able to see it in their own, which has been an inclusive game changer, I think, for keeping up to speed with things.
Great to hear. And especially, if it comes then now to let everyone even not only learn together, but collaborate, right? Then this kind of language and setting again the stage or the possibilities, then everyone can collaborate also again in their preferred ways is a great way of doing it. So thank you for sharing that one. Leigh, I already see we are getting not less questions in. So while you are sharing your interesting cases, Johanna and myself, we're checking the discussion thread on the webinar page. And we think, before we maybe dive into some highlight questions, Johanna is already capturing for us. Is there anything else you would like to maybe share with us still around the learning programs? I remember also there was something around the community topic you kind of were thinking of, or something you also were envisioning in the beginning, right? And now you're always adding more and more also when it comes to social collaborative learning towards networking communities and how to keep that even beyond the classical way of learning programs. So in case you want to share also something around that before we dive into some questions.
So we are working at building our communities. So we're looking at, we work with around 100 different associates or more who help deliver our programs, because we run quite a few programs. And so we've been building a community for them, and we're moving it also into kind of like a one-stop portal for them. So they'll be able to go on and ask questions, connect with other facilitators, check what work they have coming up, put their invoices in, get their materials that they might need for sessions. But we use it right now. We have a session tomorrow with our associates where we do quarterly updates for them with our CEO. And we really pull them in with this community. We ask them what they'd like to hear about. We get their thoughts out and we pull them in. And we really focus, and we spend a lot of time building that up to try and make them feel like they're part of something. And we're also in the process of launching our alumni network. So for our MSc participants, we want to create that community network for them where we use Howspace in order to do that. Ante, did you want me to address the question that was there?
Yeah, I think we are now, after you shared that, I was just kind of giving a hint to Johanna that that's now the good moment to maybe pull up some, or let's say pause a little and pull up some questions which came in the chat and are really linked to what you have showcased us. So maybe Johanna, do you would like to come back on stage with us and see what questions we can maybe pull out from all of that and share with us some highlights.
I think one of the audience members mentioned your comment about your LMS Moodle being a bit of a dumping ground. And so there was a question just about how do you use Moodle right now? Is it something that you're using? Have you transitioned completely away from it?
Completely. Because we even pulled our MSc onto it. So I think we let go of Moodle probably about 5 months ago.
Something like that.
So we don't, we moved everything completely over to Howspace. So we have cancelled Moodle completely.
Okay, good to know. And then there was a question about, the asynchronous, synchronous. So in other words, if you are not running a live workshop, and especially in your case where you've got people, learners all over the world, the question was, what percentage of participants engage when participants are not on live together? So can you speak to a little bit about that, sustaining the engagement, not only in the live, but also the asynchronous on their own time?
Sure. So we're working really, really hard with that. I'll be honest, it's not something that just naturally happens. You've really got to work and build that engagement. Participants, so one of the things that we do is we send out regular communication. We might ask a question and point them in the direction of the platform to go. It often gets modeled by the facilitator who's running the program. Like if I think Roy is one of our absolutely fantastic facilitators, and he's running an 8-month program for me at the moment. And there are a lot of conversations and sharing happening on the platform in the downtime between the sessions, because they happen about once or twice a month. And it's driven by him. So the participants see him coming in and sharing things and asking questions. And so they start to come back for that. But one of the things I've learned is that you can't just leave it. You've got to actually have somebody there, just like you guys do for this session that's happening. You comment, you respond to things, you get it going, and then people want to come back. So we don't always get it right. Some of our programs have amazing communities. Some of our programs have very, very slow communities. But it's something that we're learning to see what works, what doesn't work, how do you pull people back. But the main thing we've learned is that it has to be driven and led by us. We've got to model it. We've got to show participants want to see you giving too, and then they give back to you. They don't just naturally come out and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about Howspace, just in terms of the facilitator role that you're emphasizing right now, where would you, just trying to think about as somebody new to Howspace in general, would you consider Howspace an LXP, or how would you describe the difference between Howspace in the sense of when you would use Howspace and for what? I suppose to an LMS perhaps.
So I come from a university background, and an LMS is absolutely fantastic for that space. So in saying that though, we are using my Roffey Park for our MSc, but we have encountered not problems per se, because we always have a workaround. As Anshe has learned, we're very good at our workarounds.
Perfect.
But it's not best place if you are trying to run grade books. If you are running, like getting essays in and pulling it through, we use Turnitin, and then grading the essays inside and running a grade book that then, separates it out into different percentages and weightings and creates that report. So we have our workaround. So if you are in that space, I would definitely suggest maintain, unless, I'm always pushing you guys to go a little bit down that route, but you see, I would suggest maintaining an LMS, but you can overlay the LXP experience of Howspace onto that. So when you want engagement and interactivity, if you want to keep everything all in one space, if you want to, run, because when you use an LMS, you're just going to have your forums and they're going to be in a separate space. And then you're going to have maybe the modules with the Word documents, everything in there, but it doesn't create a journey. If you want to have like a learning experience and journey where everything's all integrated, you're looking at something like Howspace. But if you're a very structured learning is, done like this, we've got to have actual outputs, we're recording things like that, then definitely having an LMS running in the background is quite important. But we're a testament, you can make it work. If you only want one, can make it work.
Sounds good. That was a nice description about the differences. And thinking about the fact that you also redesigned your experiences, how long would you say that it took for you to create that sort of first version of the experience? Can you quantify?
We started in the January and we sat with our facilitators. So we had about a week where three of my colleagues and I were at our offices, because we're a remote company, but we all came through to the offices and we pulled in our different stakeholders and we really mapped out what a journey was. So we used Miro to properly storyboard it out. We created our, can't quite remember the technical term for it, but we had like what we wanted it to do. And then we built a prototype and we experimented, and we were really, really honest with participants in our open programs that this was new. I think our first one we launched in about the March, and then we did iterations from there. So I think it took us about 8 months really to get everything running smoothly between training facilitators, learning what works best, doing those iterations, making changes, because we dealt a lot with the feedback that we got from participants on what the journey was. We worked a lot with like focus groups of people to find out. So we dove headfirst. You've got to just get in there and be really upfront and honest, and just iteration after iteration, and then eventually you have a product that we've created our masters, we can copy them over, and it works really well for our programs now.
Fantastic. Yeah, oftentimes, oftentimes me and Nancy as people who teach the tool of Howspace, it's not so much about the technical learning of the tool, because you don't need any coding knowledge, of course, but exactly what you're saying, iterating, making the experience beautiful for the participants. That's what takes the kind of time that it takes to really kind of make the journey beautiful. All right. We've got some questions coming in, but I think, Antje, maybe we can move on to that third section of our presentation.
Absolutely. I was also about to say, because we have one last important topic left, which was actually on the second place, right, of the challenges, which is all about measuring impact and measuring really if learning programs are successful. And I think this is so, often that challenge, right, is often the most difficult one, and the one which is also most important for all of us. And I also know you at Roffey Park, Leigh, you have very interesting approaches of how you measure the impact of your learning programs. And if you can elaborate a little bit more on that as well, and also how Howspace supports you in that, because you have interesting aspects on that as well.
It should be waiting in the wing. There we go. So we are a consultancy at heart. So we do look at your return on investment. So our consultants would meet with a client, and we spend a lot of time looking at, the overall business objectives that they're trying to change, the results that they're going to see, how they're going to know that. And then from that, we often design tailored evaluation solutions for our clients. But what we really pride ourselves on is we've created an evaluation process that we've implemented across all our open programs, and then we pull into our client programs as well. We focus in particular on the impact on the individual, because as this is showing, measuring return on investment is incredibly complicated. It often hinges really on an organization knowing exactly what it is, what the problem is they're trying to solve. How are they going to know that problem is? And very often we notice our organizations struggle to articulate that. So we focus on how can we show the impact and the change on an individual. So we created our evaluation process. So we look at an overall satisfaction. So we've divided it into 3 sections. So you have satisfaction. So did the sessions work for you? You know, your normal happy sheet. We look at how it's influenced the participants. So your are these working for you? You know, what could be better for you? But then we look at the effectiveness. So we ask our participants to come up. Actually, wait, see if I explain this a little bit better. So we look at what our outcomes are for the program. So our open programs have their own outcomes that we've designed, and then we'd work with our clients to come up with what their outcomes they have for the learning programs that we're developing for them. We then create a baseline assessment for our participants before they come on the program, which they complete. And then we ask them to do it at multiple points of the program again as well. So our journey's gone for quite a while. So we would have a 3-month, often a 3-month and a 6-month reassessment of your baseline evaluation so that we can actually demonstrate that change to a client. So you can see a participant before they came on the program, this is how they saw themselves functioning in terms of that outcome. And then you can actually see the shifts as it grows over the length of the program. So you have something tangible. But what we also do is we actually then ask our participants to commit to things that they were going to do. So let's say you finish the live face-to-face sessions and you've learned something and you now want to go back into your role, into your organization, and you want to try some new things. So you're going to commit to 3 tangible things that you're going to do. And then we pull you back and ask you again at that 3 and 6 month point, where are you at that? And are you experiencing any blockers in terms of actually managing to do that? So we're able then to see for ourselves and also show our clients, there's been a change. People are trying, they're using these things. And then they're also sharing why they can't. So it's not that they didn't learn something. Maybe they can't because the technology doesn't work for them, or maybe they can't because their calendar's too full. And then it opens up that conversation of, is there something more going on here? It's not actually about learning and development. There's a cultural aspect that we need to look at within the organization. So we work at all levels. We don't just want to know, did you enjoy the session? It's a very holistic overview to see what impact our program has had on the participants.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, and exactly what you said, this kind of holistic view, also covering all the aspects, and then along the journey, especially also measuring that over some time is not only super important, but great to see how you approach that or how you tackle that.
If I give you a quick little insight into it, so for example, this is on one of our open programs. We have, so a participant would come in, and this is before they've gone on the program. So these are essentially what our outcomes are, and then we've rephrased them into statements for a participant. So I can have effective feedback and coaching conversations with my team because this is an outcome. We want somebody who comes on this program to be able to do that. So we ask them what they feel on agreement level on that, and then we pull them back in as it comes. And what it creates for us is, when we have our different points, is you can compare the answers. Howspace has a wonderful spider diagram that actually physically shows you the difference in growth within the participants. And then we also come in here, so you see your commitments. So what are the 3 things you committed to doing over the next 3 months? And then we help them monitor their progress. So they put their commitments down, because we found when participants actually write that down, there's a little bit more accountability. We're not just asking you to think about. So now, even though nobody else can see it and we're not really checking up on you, there's a little bit more accountability because you've actively written it down. And now you would come in here and you'd say where you're at on it. And then later on, we'll ask you what blockers you're experiencing. And then we have our general feedback after a session. And then we have our overall final course feedback. So we take a look at the delivery, we look at the contents, we look at whether it's actually helped them in it. And we use this really as a narrative, the happy sheet at the end. So we would generate then a story. So we have our evaluation officer who then comes up and shares the story with the facilitator and other invested stakeholders. So we look at evaluation really not just on evidence and proof of how great our programs are, but how can we actually make it better? What's coming out here? Like participants maybe on this program feel that we rushed too much on something. Are we missing a beat here? Is there something that we can do to improve? What could be better for the next run of the program? So even though we feel we've nailed what the layout is on Howspace, we're constantly iterating our programs based on what feedback we get.
Thank you for sharing, and also great to see, how you not only have that kind of constant measuring throughout throughout the entire program, always coming back with certain ways of doing it, not only the closed one like the pulse you have shown, these scaling ratings, right? But also with these open questions to bring them more into the constant reflection, and then pulling out insights from there. So this is really, really great to see. Thank you for sharing that, Leigh. I'm looking now a little bit on the time. Unfortunately, I don't know where the time or how the time flies here in that session. It was so inspiring to see all the different aspects of your learning programs, not only from the beginning and how you have built it out and brought it back, but also coming to the fact of how you actually measure if your programs are successful. And I know, Johanna, a lot of questions still are in the chat, and I'm not sure if you're maybe able to highlight maybe or give us some quick summary of what topics has also been mentioned or came up as maybe surprising key takeaways from our audience.
And then after the session, I will very definitely go on and take a look at questions and put some responses in for people.
There is some work for you to be done, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, also Howspace is exactly used for this. The learning journey not just is before, the during part, which is now, and then afterwards, and being able to come back to those conversations. That's exactly what Howspace learning journeys are all about, because you have the shared space to come back to. And so I see a lot of the comments here of feeling Howspace out in terms of this whole context of the learning experience and having all of those interactive elements. There was a question about, all of the different functionalities. And Leigh, thank you for highlighting a lot of those things like, polls and pulses and radar charts and I don't know if we saw the Canvas whiteboard, but all of these things add to the interactivity and engagement of users. And so I think that you shared a really beautiful picture of how an experience can be with Howspace. And so that was really,
the whiteboard is my new favorite one. I will say we're using it in workshop 4 across that program that will not be named, the 200 cohorts of it.
Heavy testing already, right? Which is also always appreciated.
Yeah. And just picking up on the final comment that I'm reading here on the webinar page, where not only does the Howspace tool look good, the experience of this webinar is also excellent. So that's really nice. But we also wanted to bring in that even though you guys are not being seen on camera and on audio, you have ability to interact in a live setting where you're actually being seen through your comments and responding to polls. So we really like that, the mindset of being able to bring in that inclusivity, even though you're kind of faceless and anonymous from a video point of view. So one thing that we do want to, of course, to always hear after a webinar like this is your feedback. And so when you scroll down past the public and private questions, you'll notice that there's a couple of questions that we've unveiled, so to speak, on the page. And that is, what will you take away from this session? What is that one piece of that nugget of goodness that you want to capture? So we'd love to hear that. And you can also see other people's comments after you've given your own comment. That's also a nice little feature, not to kind of to really get your brain thinking in a very autonomous way. And also the feedback. What would you like us to do in terms of supporting your next steps? If you want to reach out to Leigh, for example, and hear more about Roffey Park, please do choose the poll option there. I'd like to learn more about Roffey Park's offering. If you're interested in Howspace, there's a couple of options there on the poll. And also if there's something else that we haven't got to, please do respond in the private chat there about dropping us a message, giving us some feedback. So those options are now available. But from my part, I wanted to thank you for not only the pre-work experience that you had on the welcome page, attending today or watching the video recording afterwards, which of course will be on the webinar page, and we're able to respond to any of the questions that you posed that we didn't get to today. Thank you so much on my behalf for attending this session. Thank you, Leigh, for sharing your experiences of Roffey Park and giving us that really beautiful real-time view of what you've created at Roffey Park. So we really appreciate that. And thank you, Antje, for hosting with me.
Likewise. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining. And it was a wonderful session. I really enjoyed.
Absolutely.
Always good to see you guys.
Yeah, likewise. All right. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.